Hello, Net Defense webinar on the dark web. As you may have heard or seen, what is the dark web? So just before we start, I'd like to just bring up a disclaimer. Obviously at the end of this there will be a slightly live demo, but obviously nothing too nasty. So the dark web. Obviously, dark web is part of the World Wide Web that is only accessible by means of special software, allowing users and website operators to remain anonymous and or untraceable. Obviously, the dark web now poses new and formidable challenges for law enforcement agencies around the world. So, deep web versus the dark web. What is the difference between the deep web and the dark web? So, from a purist point of view, the search web is anything that a search engine can find, while the deep web is anything a search engine can't find. So, while the diagram is a bit simplified, it gives an idea of roughly what the differences are. Basically, it's impossible to measure the size of the deep web. Latest estimates are around 7 to 8 zettabytes of info, which is averaging around 95% of the online digital content. Only around about 5% of the digital content is on the surface web, so roughly about 8 billion pages. So the dark web is classified as a small proportion of the deep web that has been intentionally hidden and is inaccessible through standard web browsers. Access the dark web. This is done by software, and the most common piece of software is the Tor. So, to understand Tor, we need to know something a little bit about why it was created. So there are multiple dark webs, and the most popular one is accessed using the Tor anonymity software. Originally, the acronym for the Onion Routing project was developed in the mid-90s by the US Naval Research Laboratory. It was literally created to protect user intelligence online. It was originally developed by a few people. One of them was called Paul Syverson. He wrote a paper called Private Web Browsing, and basically explains that as a military-grade communication devices increasingly depend on public communications infrastructure, it is important to use that infrastructure in ways that are resistant to traffic analysis. It may be useful to communicate anonymously, for example, when gathering information from public databases. So there are the guys that actually wrote the software, Paul Syverson, Michael Reed and David Goldschlang. Whether they're the actual names is still a matter of debate. So the project was launched in September 2002. It released at a security symposium by another two guys called Dingledine and Matthewson, and they released it under free license. However, the one we actually use today is called Tor, and it's not an abbreviation at all, and it's the second generation of onion routing. So, why use Tor? The Internet and the World Wide Web was created to be open and transparent, largely by scientists to share information across the world. The problem is, you leave fingerprints. Fingerprint can consist of cookies, IP addresses, operating system, user agent headers, search terms used, browser configuration, and geolocation. So, obviously, the fact that you leave all that information is an issue if you do not wish to be tracked. Privacy versus anonymity. There is a difference between privacy and anonymity. Just because you hide what you are doing doesn't mean it can't be identified. For example, if you're communicating with your bank, There's no private information like login details or passwords which are viewable, but hackers will know that you are communicating with your bank. So the data can come in handy and see who, for how long and when. This can be useful and means the target has privacy but no anonymity. So how does Tor work? So it makes it more difficult to trace internet activity in visits to websites, online posts, instant messaging and other forms of communication such as email and VoIP. It is intended to protect users' anonymity, personal privacy, freedom and the ability to conduct confidential business by keeping their activities from being monitored. So it works by creating a virtual circuit through numerous online proxy nodes. It contacts these nodes and obtains an encryption key from each one. That message is then sent through the Tor network and it gets encrypted and decrypted successfully at each node. So in this example, us is making a connection to Bob. The originating machine transmits the data to the first node, where upon receipt decrypts the message to discover the IP address of the second node and forwards that data onward. The process is repeated through the virtual circuit until the data reaches its destination. The last node in the Tor circuit is called the exit node. The exit node of the circuit gets access to the unencrypted message being transmitted, providing a high level of anonymity for both the data in transit and the two endpoints of the transmission. For security, some individuals encrypt the data payload so only the destination can decrypt the message being sent. To avoid exit nodes from being exploited, someone harvesting all passing communications, the Tor software randomizes each connection through the network so that every 10 minutes or so the route changes nodes. Standard install of Tor uses 3 proxy nodes to forward traffic through. The reason there are 3 is because any one of the proxy servers were evil. The first proxy would only see Alice on the second node would only see the first node and the exit node node would only see the second node and the destination. None of the proxies can see the whole route, and because encryption used, the nodes can't see the data sent, with the exception of the exit node as data passes it from an unencrypted form, unless the website being communicated with is using encryption. So the Tor bundle uses a highly customized version of the Mozilla Firefox browser and basically contains all the software you need to safely browse the dark web. The Tor browser bundle was created to ensure a high level of security due to issues around cookies and browser uniqueness. We've all looked at the footprints left by browsers on the internet. So everybody using the Tor browser bundle, they use it as it is with no modifications. It basically means everybody's browsing through an identical browser, making it more difficult to track. It is a standalone application, meaning it doesn't actually necessarily need to be installed on anybody's machine. You can just run it from a USB key, making it more difficult for system admins. This is roughly how the Tor proxies work. As you can see, hence the layers and the name, the onion routing. So basically each of the router creates an encrypted layer which is then stripped off as the message passes through each node. So, Tor hidden services. The Tor services protocol was added in 2004, allowing for anonymity for those creating websites as well as for those visiting. The Tor hidden services has become quite synonymous with the dark web due to high profile arrests and seizures. One of the most famous ones, a guy called Ross Ulbricht, who's well known as the Pirate Roberts. He set up the Silk Road, his website was seized and taken down. The FBI seized around about 140,000 bitcoins, which at the time was worth about $30 million. Tor Hidden Services allows anonymity for individuals running the website, as we've already said. Originally intended for human rights activists in locations where free speech is not protected. Hidden Services keeps the IP address of the web server hidden by bouncing the web traffic through another set of Tor relays. So access to the website without an IP address is achieved by routing all the communications through what's known as a rendezvous point. And we're going to cover that now. So, how do Tor Hidden Services actually work? So what we have is Bob obviously wants to set up a Tor Hidden Service. So basically he creates his website. During the of the website, obviously Bob must ensure that security procedures are followed so his internal IP address doesn't get leaked at all. So this is quite an important step and is not actively supported by the Tor network, but it's easy enough to overcome. So once the website is created, Bob makes changes to a file called a Tor-RC file, and he links this to his version of Tor on the new website. So once linked, the Tor software will add introduction points on the Tor network. Each link to the introduction point is done through the Tor circuit. And as we discussed, the Tor circuit normally consists of 3 nodes. So introduction points are given Bob's public key, which is stored within his Tor-RC file, but not the location of the server. Introduction points are created for Bob's hidden service. A hidden service descriptor is published to the database, giving information such as Bob's public key, the introduction points, and the .onion address of the service. This is then distributed around the Tor Hidden Services directories, and Bob is now set up. So what happens? Alice finds Bob's onion address. This can be either via public forums, or it may actually be published on a hidden wiki or a dark web search engine. Chances are it won't be. They're normally via forums. When Alice enters the onion address into the Tor browser, it then looks up information about Bob's service from the database, including Bob's public key, the introduction points that were created when it was set up. Alice then picks a random relay and sets up a rendezvous point by telling it a one-time secret. Alice has the onion information. She then writes an introduction message to Bob, encrypted using his public key and listing her rendezvous point and a one-time secret. All of the communication, by the way, takes place via Tor circuits, so that Alice nor Bob's real address is shared. Hidden Service receives and decrypts Alice's introduction message with the rendezvous point and the one-time secret, and then builds a circuit back to that rendezvous point. Then connects, provides her with a one-time secret she originally sent him. The rendezvous point notifies Alice about a successful connection and starts to relay traffic end-to-end encrypted from Alice to Bob and vice versa. Now, Alice's Tor network was connected via 3 relays to the Tor network, and Alice is also connected via 3 relays to the Tor network, making up a total of 6 between Alice and Bob, and including the rendezvous point. So, like analysis of Tor Hidden Services, the University of Luxembourg did a study and they scanned all .onion descriptors, found around about 39,000 in total, but only about 4,000 active sites. The largest categories, not surprisingly, for adult, drugs and politics. The study also found that the requests made to hidden services, around about 80%, was for child abuse. based on HTTP and HTTPS services, not necessarily active or actual users. So, just to cover off some more of the infamous websites, obviously Card a Planet, that was set up in 2001 by someone under the pseudonym of Script. His real name was Dmitry Golubov. He was arrested in 2005. Card Market, they took over from Card a Planet. That guy's name was Max Butler. He was arrested in 2007. The Road, obviously one of the most famous ones, popularised the dark web, basically by making it known to the public. In 2011, Ross Ulbricht set that up. He was arrested in 2013. So another more famous one, Agora, as of 2015, has over 17,000 different types of drugs for sale, and it's actually operational occasionally. It's very difficult to actually get a hold of it, but it is still up and down. So obviously these are just a few of the thousands of sites on the dark web, selling everything from hitmen to drugs. So this is a quick display of what you can actually find or see on the Agora website. So as you can see, it ranges from pretty much everything. It's the eBay of the dark web, if you like. So you know you're going to get what you receive. So, well, obviously by feedback, it works exactly the same as every feedback system you would expect. People leave it, but you have to take into consideration the fact that, as it is the dark web, there's a huge and massive chance you will be scammed yourself. So you might pay $50,000 for a hitman. The chances are you're going to be $50,000 dark webs. We've covered the Tor hidden network and the Tor hidden services, but there are others. The criminals are now actually moving across to these other dark webs, primarily due to the fact that they're not as well known as the Tor network, and it's a lot more difficult for law enforcement agencies to actually track these people. So the more common ones are I2P, Free, and GNUnet. So I2P stands for the Invisible Internet Project. It's basically a networking layer sitting on top of the current IP network, which makes up the Internet. They use cryptography to keep everything confidential. It's not just messaging. It's exactly the same as Tor, where you can actually stream standard internet traffic using a bridge, so you can set up websites, email servers, forums, etc. So to run an anonymous website, unlike Tor where they're called onion sites, on I2P they're called EAP sites. They're exactly the same, they're hidden and anonymous, but surprisingly operate much faster than Tor networks. So yeah. Now, I2P basically works exactly the same way. Peer-to-peer communication designed to be censorship resistant. It operates in the same vein as BitTorrent, storing small portions of information across the whole of the Freenet network, so no one system actually contains a complete file. The Freenet's actually becoming more and more popular, and it is actually one of the largest ones out there at the moment. GNUnet is a free software framework. Again, it works in exactly the same way as I2P and Freenet, where it's a decentralized peer-to-peer communication platform. The original package exactly the same as the I2P and FET and Tor. Been up since 2001, so it's actually one of the older ones. Actually enjoyed a huge popularity due to the revelations about the government spying program PRISM. Brings us on to cryptocurrency, and it is, and basically how it's took off so much. So, cryptocurrency. These are anonymous or semi-anonymous payment systems. The most common of which is Bitcoin. Bitcoin was created, or the first bit currency, shall we say, was first created by a guy called Nick Szabo, who created BitGold. But in 2008, in the wake of the banking crisis, Bitcoin was developed by an unknown individual going by the name of Satoshi Nakamoto. It actually appeared at one point, or a person appeared at one point, claiming to be Satoshi Nakamoto. It was proven or disproven if it was him, but it's been. The guy who created Bitcoin is worth roughly around about 1 million Bitcoins. So today's money, that's probably around about $500 million. Without cryptocurrency, the dark web would not be nearly as successful. Piece of which is called the blockchain, which you can actually view. So, Bitcoin is a token system. The history of every token exchange is recorded in a public ledger called the blockchain. Entries are added by a network of computers around the world working together to verify each exchange. As incentive for these, they basically earn tokens, which is called Bitcoin mining. The ledger can't be changed at all, as I've already said. Only new entries can be added to it. So what does the blockchain look like? So, quick look here. This is a list of all the transactions which is actually going through Bitcoin at the moment. We can change that so we can actually have a look at the actual values. This is publicly available. There's absolutely no reason to be on the dark web to see any of that. So coins are obviously added at a regular rate, and the last one will be mined in 2140. So about it, well, you can either set yourself up with a single computer, or as you can do as this guy has done, and set yourself up with a couple of hundred. If you wanted to do that, obviously you need to make sure that the bitcoins you will be mining would cover the expense of the equipment, etc. So Bitcoin real money. So the money obviously that we carry around at the moment is only in fact an IOU from the bank. Our bank accounts, if you think about it, are actually nothing more than just digital numbers. So taken, if the world did end, we would have absolutely no value whatsoever. So the Bitcoin being added at a mathematically set constant rate which cannot be changed, no one can flood the system by creating more. So Bitcoin, yeah, it has monetary value only if we believe it has a value. It can't be falsely manipulated, including banks. And it can't be over or hyperinflated, unlike the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. So, tracking Bitcoin. Bitcoin is actually becoming accepted now by major companies. It's certainly not illegal, so you can trade quite happily in Bitcoin. It is the primary method of payment on the dark web, but every transaction is public. However, identities are kept separate from the transactions, so obviously you cannot trace the receiver or sender. You can get that information there on blockchain.info. The traditional privacy model, obviously identities, which led to transactions via a trusted third party, such as your bank, counterparty, their bank, and obviously that was public. Whereas the new privacy model, basically the identities are kept totally and utterly separate from the transactions, which are made public. So, any alternatives to Bitcoin? Yeah, there is quite a few. As of October last year, there was around about 645 different currencies. So it's your business. So the type of services the dark web supplies should in no way ever be linked to businesses. What you realise is obviously the major part here is obviously a danger to the reputation. It's estimated that over 50% of the links actually connect to the hidden Skynet botnet. But that a lot of the sites are illegal, regardless, they are illegal. Some even hosting the content is actually illegal, never mind viewing it. So the fact that you've also got things hacking for hire, specific cyber exploits for sale, malware for sale, vulnerabilities for sale, stolen intellectual property, designs, counterfeits, stolen financial information, stolen personable identifiable information, spam, phishing campaigns. So see, the dark web should in no way be connected to your network or anybody on your network connected to the dark web. But it must be said that the hosting in sites is not illegal. For example, does actually have a genuine .net, .onion site, which I will show you. So this Tor browser itself, obviously you did see that little pop-up there saying it should be kept at the original size. This again is due to the fingerprints and footprints being left, so you never change the size of the Tor browser. So now we're connected to the Tor network. It's quite simple just by clicking on the button. Then tell me that I am connected. Yeah. Double check that just by clicking there, and we can actually see that I have gone through a relay in the Netherlands, then Germany, and Romania out onto the internet. And I find that just by going to Google, and it will default to whichever language that I am connected to. Hopefully. A quick look. The most common way of searching for onion sites is obviously via the hidden wiki, which no doubt everybody's heard of. It's certainly the most common site for searching. No. Obviously, these are all the .onion sites. Quite happy to just click on them. Again, as this is a demonstration, some of these sites I won't be clicking on whatsoever. And as I mentioned earlier, we've got Facebook. Yeah, the real Facebook, it's not a ripped off version or anything like that. And we can verify that via the green certificate. and it is genuine. Now, this Facebook claims not to do any tracking or any other information mining whatsoever, but as it's Facebook, take that as a face value. So just a couple of sites, pretty much not particularly nasty, but obviously you can have a look and see what's kicking around here. So you've got clone cards, etc. We'll go to another one, so you might be able to buy a passport. So these kind of sites you can easily come across. As I said, due to the fact that this is running on a corporate network, I still won't be visiting any of the other sites. So that's the Darknet, and thank you for your time. Thank you.